So our group decided to do a movie called Stand By Me, based off a book written by Stephen King. The movie explains about an epic journey of 4 kids who try to find a dead body. And throughout the movie, we see 4 leadership styles develop and grow. And Tess is going to talk about Chris Chambers' leadership style throughout the movie.
So, at the beginning of the film, when we are introduced to the 4 boys, Chris Chambers is the one who stands out as the obvious leader of the group. He's the toughest and the strongest, the most confident of all of them. He is willing to stand up for them and be assertive in telling them exactly how it is and what they need to do, and when they're being stupid or making rash decisions. He employs a tough love approach in that when the boys don't realize that they're doing something that could harm them, he'll step in and intercede so that he can prevent them from getting hurt or doing something they'll regret. On the other hand, he does have a humble, sensitive side. He's aware of the social stereotypes that society has thrust upon his family, and he's not trapped by them. He wants to break out of the shell of the bad boy that's not going anywhere in life, and he knows that when he makes a mistake that he can fix it, and he has the morals and the will to try to be a better person. He also is very supportive of his friends and willing to encourage them to be the best that they can be. He takes on the role of an older brother to Gordy and the other 2 boys, in that Gordy is not very confident in himself, and he can't find the confidence within himself to realize his potential. And Chris brings that out in him, telling him that he knows what he's capable of and that he's smart enough and will be able to succeed if he just tries hard enough.
I'm Mike, and I'm here talking about Gordy LaChance. He is one of the boys that definitely tries to serve as kind of a mentor for the group and a pusher. He goes along with everything and keeps the group moving all the time. He is the one that is always looking out for the group. He goes and buys the group food. He tells the group a story to keep up morals. And he definitely balances Chris. They're best friends, and as Tess talked about, he wasn't originally confident, but neither was Chris in a way, because he didn't really think he had it in him to be able to do much with his life. But Gordy convinced him to take special classes with him, and at the end of the movie it says that he becomes a lawyer, which he probably would have never done without Gordy. And Gordy wasn't very confident either without Chris's support, and he does go on to become a writer as well. And he gains confidence throughout the movie, and at the end of the movie he stands up against the gang of bullies by holding the gun out in front of them and not backing down.
So the 3rd member of the group is Teddy Duchamp, and what he really exemplifies is an outlier of leadership. He's not as balanced as Jordy or Chris is in the beginning of the movie. What he has is this very great, courageous, motivating behavior that's exemplified sort of by his character, his GI character in the movie. In addition to this, he's also able to see the good in everyone. The biggest example of this is his father, who was this great American hero. However, everybody casts him as the guy that went crazy after the war and is in, the loony bin. But he also is able to see the good in Jordy and in Chris, and he motivates them to keep moving forward. So whenever they have a crossroads, he's always the one to push them forward. Then in addition to that, though, he also develops a more rounded style of leadership and decision-making skills as the journey progresses. So you actually see by the end of the movie that he's showing more humility and a more rounded approach. So, for example, at the end of the movie, he's actually apologizing to Chris for starting all these fights when he was too confrontational during the whole journey.
The next character we're going to talk about is Vern Tessio. He is the voice of reason in the group. When a decision has to be made, he is the person to ask how or why, or should we even do that at all. that they need that in the group because as kids, some of them can be irrational, and so he's really careful. He takes the time to think about what they're doing before they actually do it. He can be a little less assertive when it comes to certain situations. People do call him names. People do make fun of him. He's that kid in the group, but he does change throughout the movie. Towards the end, Teddy does call him names, but he finally calls him out on it. And they do get into a fight, but at least he shows that sort of level of assertiveness that he doesn't just let people walk all over him. He's also very persistent. At the beginning of the movie, he talked about how he lost his jar of pennies, and he would spend days under the porch just trying to look for it because it's buried under there somewhere. He's very persistent. And like I said before, when it comes to rationality, they decide that they're on the railroads, and to get to where they want to go, it would be a lot easier and faster to go through the woods and not stay on the train tracks. And he's that person in the group that says, hey, maybe we should stay on the train tracks because it is a good idea. It is safer. And there was a point where they did fall into a swamp. So he was right, because he was that person to step back and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should stick to this because it's a lot safer and it will still get the job done in the amount of time we need.
So throughout all kinds of movies, there's always the typical bad guy that everybody looks at. But in this movie, the bad guy is Ace. But he still shows some important leadership skills that we have to look at. His leadership skill is a lot different than everybody else's. He likes to rule with an iron fist almost. He rules through fear. He is not so much a king with that kind of a system, but he is a dictator. He tells people, you're doing this now. And because of that, there's some goods and some bads. Sometimes that leadership skill is necessary for certain people, and the bad things are you're really not ruling, you're just telling people what to do. You're barking commands. And then we also look at the other bad guy, his name is Billy. And Billy is another example, but he's not a leader. He's the example you never want to follow. He is the follower. Never speaks out, never has any good contributions to his group and to his friends that he's trying to lead. He just sits back, lays back, and he's a follower. So these are two important skills that we needed to look into as we were examining the 4 leadership styles of the boys.
In the movie, we see how the group together acts as one decision-making force, and how collectively they exhibit 4 or 5 different kinds of leadership. Now, working all together, we can actually see that they came out with a very balanced approach to leadership and decision-making. Their experience changed their leadership. In the beginning of the movie, all they wanted to do is find the dead body and become famous. And they wanted to go on this real long journey for all the wrong reasons. But what they decided at the end is they came to the more educated conclusion that they made a respectful decision, where they're able to balance out each other's thoughts, where the outliers of Vern and Teddy were both moderated by, the good senses of Chris and Jordy. And they were able to sort of fight off these bad styles of leadership, and they never developed into something authoritative or autocratic like you saw in Ace and Billy and sort of the bad group. So that's how we think that their leadership styles were changed during the movie, and then how they exhibited best practices of leadership. By balancing each other out and being able to express all these different types of decision making and leadership skills, they were able to make the best decision and the most respectful decision in the end.